Hi, I'm Chris Pronger, 20-year NHL veteran, Hockey Hall of Famer, and co-founder of Well Inspired Travels, and I am on the game plan.
Okay, so today we have Hockey Hall of Famer, top 100 all-time NHL, Stanley Cup champion, NHL MVP, two-time Olympic gold medalist, and we met him through LinkedIn. Which is actually where I'm reading the accolades off. Chris Pronger, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about that. Clearly, you've got a bent towards networking and entrepreneurship, but when did that really start? Was that something you were thinking about during your hockey career?
Not necessarily from a tech standpoint, more so pre-COVID face-to-face interactions and meeting people. Obviously, my wife and I and our family are very philanthropic and go to a lot of different events and galas and things of that nature, and try to engage in the communities that we played in and be a part of the local, I guess what's the right word, ideology and kind of every town has its own certain traditions and people that kind of take hold in the community and really kind of lead the landscape into kind of being good humans and citizens and doing what's right for the local community and community in general. And, I think for us, we've always lived in the places where we played and kind of made that our home for a while we were there. And, whether it's, when I first got to Hartford to then coming here to St. Louis and Edmonton, then heading down to Anaheim, and then ultimately Philly in the end. We always lived in the places where we played and made that our home. So it was something that I think we wanted to invest in communities that were investing in us and be a part of everything that was about those communities, the people, as I mentioned earlier, the traditions, everything that embodied being a part of, whether it's a Philadelphian, St. Louisan, being part of Orange County and Anaheim and et cetera. So really taking hold and being one with where we were playing at that time.
Yeah, and so following your playing career, you got right into more work, right? Work off the ice. You were director of player safety for the NHL and then went on to an advisor role with the Florida Panthers. Tell us more about that. Just had the itch, got bored. What was it that drove you into those roles, which were definitely roles that had a pretty big time commitment?
Yeah, no, I think, the first role with the league was kind of really out of the blue. I had recently signed a 7-year contract extension in Philadelphia. I got hurt in year 2 of that deal. So I had 5+ years left of my contract. And my contract was structured as such that I was unable to retire, and was being paid out the duration of my contract. I couldn't play, and so I started doing a little bit of scouting for our GM at the time, Paul Holmgren, but also, it was a little bit weird because I was supposed to be playing, but I'm kind of doing a little scouting, and it was a little awkward at times, not knowing what side you need to be on. And then I got a call out of the blue. I was at the draft, which was in Philly, ran into Gary Bettman and Bill Daly, the commissioner and deputy commissioner, and talked to them a little bit. And got a call out of the blue a couple of weeks after that. Brendan Shanahan had just taken the president's job with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Stefan Quintal was taking over his job, and they wanted some ex-players that had recently played to kind of come in and be support roles. Rob Blake had taken an assistant GM title in LA at the time, and Brian Leach was moving on. So there was a number of key roles for them in the Department of Player Safety that they wanted to fill, and they wanted to bring in players that had connections recently to the game, and then obviously under the new rules that had slowly been put into place, Rule 42 and some of the headshot rules and things of that nature. So kind of had a lot of things to walk through in order to get the job from a legal standpoint with my contract as a player, but then I'm disciplining players or part of the process. So there was a lot of hurdles we needed to go over, but I think he just wanted to gauge my interest in doing it. And after consulting, my wife and family and understanding what exactly the time commitment was going to be, I was comfortable with taking on the position and then ultimately going through the necessary legal hurdles to facilitate the job.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I think Tim and I have discovered doing this show for however many months is every league has a different culture around how younger players look to older players, whether it's for stuff, on the field, on the ice, or off of it. In the NHL, or for you specifically, were there veteran players that you looked at how they were carrying themselves in retirement or sort of off the ice that you said, hey, that's somebody that I want to follow. That's a beacon for me?
Yeah, I think there's always players that you seek counsel from or you've played with and you follow their second career, so to speak, their that next step in whatever direction. And you're, I was fortunate enough when I came into the league in 93 with Hartford, they had acquired Brad McCrimmon, who was 36 years old at the time. I was 18, and he was my roommate, my D partner, all those things. And, I essentially lived with him for 2 years. And, we talked about hockey. We talked about off the ice stuff. We talked about, everything under the sun. And it's funny as an 18-year-old kid and how things come full circle. When I was 36 playing with the Philadelphia Flyers, all of the things that he had said to me 18 years before that, I was sitting there going, that was right, that was right, that was right. But, as an 18-year-old, you got to kind of go through and learn on your own. Some of it you're going to heed with some warning, and others you got to make the mistakes on your own. And I tell my wife that the same thing about our 18-year-old. He's going to have to make the mistakes. You can't protect him from everything. You can guide and steer and explain how things are going to play out, but ultimately they've got to do it on their own.
Right. I was going to say it sounds a little bit like when you become a parent and all those things that my dad said, hey, when you're a dad, you'll understand.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get into some of the off the ice stuff that you've been doing, specifically with Well Inspired Travels, the company that you started. Give us a little bit of the origin story, where the idea came from, and then we can dig in maybe more into the business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my wife's baby. This is she's the one that started it. It's been really in the back of her mind since she was a young 6-year-old girl, and her dad was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and with that was given a year to live. And he looked at my mother-in-law and said, for however long I'm on earth, I want to travel and see the world and be able to show the kids what else is out there and really guide them through travel. And that first summer they went over to Europe and traveled around Europe for 2.5 months. And my wife got to see him full of life and energy and joy and happiness. Number one, because he was seeing new countries, but number two, he was with his family and his loved ones and doing what he really wanted to do. And, so she got to see how powerful travel could be, the healing powers of travel, and really how it affected his mind, body, spirit. And that left a mark on her. And that next summer, all the while they went back, he was planning the next trip, and they chose Asia, and he was getting pounded with chemo and radiation, and was a shell of himself, and was really beaten down. And he's planning Asia, and she's a firm believer that he chose Asia because he wanted to marry Eastern medicine and Western medicine. He was kind of really a forward thinker and really out in front of that type of scenario. And he would go off into the bush for 2-3 weeks at a time with a medicine man and learning the different holistic healing methods and meditation and things like that they're known for in Eastern medicine. And my mother-in-law would take them off to see the Great Wall of China and all the different landmarks in Asia. And he came out of that with a renewed mindset and a renewed power and vigilance and how he was going to fight this disease. So she really got to see travel from a number of perspectives and what it can do, how you can learn from it, seeing different cultures and things of that nature. And he married those two. He stuck around long enough for a radical surgery in Western medicine to come about, and ultimately that saved his life. And 2 years after that, he was cancer-free, given a clean bill of health, and did not have an issue with cancer again. And That really left a mark on my wife. And from that point forward, travel was an integral part of their lives, in obviously his health, but in their family dynamic and how they looked at travel and what they did. And so that's really where the formation of the company and the values and how we want to run our company and how we want to interact with our clients and prospective clients comes from, is that specific moment.
I love that story, and as somebody who has gone through that same kind of process with a loved one in my family, you realize that it's not just about the person that is obviously going through, but also the extended family and the challenges that they face. So I think it's a really beautiful sentiment for people to be able to do that together and have that healing as a family together. Help me understand some of the clients that you're working with, as you just referenced. What are the sort of breadth of needs that you guys service through Well Inspired Travels, and how do you work with your clients specifically?
Yeah, so really our niche client are athletes, celebrities, CEOs, C-level executives, business owners, high net worth individuals, families that the reason that we funneled to that specific clientele is that's what I know. Whether it's athletes, business owners, CEOs, when you look at the drive and determination to get to the top, the will and desire to stay there and then push past that and continue to get better, that's what all those people do and strive to do. And, I think when you look at my career in athletics, obviously my wife being beside me for much of it, our understanding of demands on your time, pressures of the job, fame and fortune, stress on home life, stress on kids, all of those things that kind of the pitfalls and forks in the road that families and business people are going to understand and encounter. We've been through it all and understand what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And, we're able to talk to them. Our business is relationship driven. It's not transactional. We really want to get to know our clients on a personal basis and on a more personal level so that we can guide them and steer them in the right direction, whether it's a staycation where, two spouses needing to get away to reconnect, or you're going on a 2 or 3 week African safari or what have you, you're able to help guide and steer and allow the client to talk through what they're dealing with, what they're going through on a much more personal level so that you're able to form that bond and that trust. You already have it to a certain degree because you've been in their shoes and understand. But as you talk through bucket lists and things they're interested in, not interested in, all the rest of that, you're able to really connect with them and get a better understanding for what they're looking for. Maybe they don't even know, and as you walk through what their interests are, things start clicking in their head and they're like, oh yeah, I am interested in that, or yeah, I didn't like this, and why did they not like it? And you're able to kind of really formulate a path for what is going to be of value and interest in learning about different cultures, culinary, adventure, what have you. You're really able to kind of spearhead a plan of attack and how to do things. And, when I spoke of transactional earlier, Jay, you might come to me and say, yeah, I want to go to Cabo. And I'm going to say, well, it's not going to be, here's 3 properties that we work with. It's going to be, why do you want to go to Cabo? Well, what is special about going there? What are you doing there? Who's going? And you're able to really dig deeper and peel back the onion layer and go, okay, you want to go to the beach and you've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. You're like, well, the beaches in Cabo aren't swimmable. You're not going to take a 2 and a 4-year-old there. And you're able to really interact and understand on a more personal level instead of just sending them off and say, well, geez, you said you wanted to go there. You're able to really, luxury travel is expensive and people's time is valuable, and you want to be able to make the most of it and really have that interaction and that understanding of what they want to get out of it. Our company, we're firm believers in being able to learn something as small as going on a staycation, and it might be a new sleep method, a sleep technique, new meditation technique, whatever it is, and implement that into your everyday life to improve yourself on a personal level, professional level, allow you to be a better leader, better spouse, better father, husband, mother, daughter, whatever, and able to really use your travels to grow as a person and become better. And I think as we look at travel in our space now, in this generation, in this era, how often do you see people go away on a trip and sit on a beach for 7 days and do nothing? That used to be what people did, and now people are much more active and engaged in using their time to their best abilities. And yeah, you're gonna relax for a day or two, but you're gonna want to do something and get out and be active.
Chris, why do you think that is?
I think part of it is the internet and how the attention span of people. You want to read a book. Most people, they're going to hike and listen to an audiobook now. They're going to incorporate two things into one. They're going to multitask, if you will, for those of us that can chew gum and walk. But, I think just from a time management perspective, people are looking at being more active. I think from a health and wellness standpoint, people are more active and engaged in what they're doing on their travels. And it's something that I think as we look at our space and our clients, what they really want to do, how they value their time, how they value their experiences, what they're into. A lot of it is driven around health and wellness, for as simple as going on a hike with your spouse, or being more engaged and learning more about new sleep techniques, new holistic healing methods, new acupuncture techniques, whatever it is, and really being engaged and using your time off to better yourself.
And you'll go so far as to book all of those experiences, or
absolutely. Our model is turnkey. It can be as much or as little as you're interested in. Some people like having that control over. I want to be able to change this, do that. Other people, it can be as turnkey as the time you leave your house, the time you get back to your house, everything is done and handled for you. And that's all part of how we work. It's a lot of times, I know when I was playing, that trust factor is not there. You're not sure if they really understand what you're going through, what you're dealing with. And certainly having been in their shoes, we understand that.
Yeah, as we look at the state of the travel and tourism industry in 2020, I think doesn't have to say much that there wasn't a lot of it going on.
Yeah.
But certainly, I mean, we saw even with Airbnb, right? They had a tough, Q2, and then they came bouncing back as people were looking at staycations, or there were folks that were traveling, within their country. Help me understand how bespoke the process is, because we see in luxury travel there are these like tour package companies, right? And they say we have a bespoke tour of Italy, but really every tour that does Italy kind of gets the same stops. They kind of get the same thing. Might even be the same tour person. When you guys are helping plan a trip for one of your clients, how much of it is packages that you have already set up versus directing them based on what they want into maybe some new areas that you've never done before?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Every one of our trips is customized. It's not cookie cutter. What your interests are totally different than mine, and even if they're similar, they're not the same. No two people are alike, and that's what's great about travel is we can customize and change things on a case-by-case basis. And what you were interested in 3 years ago may not be what you're interested in now. And as your tastes evolve and change, and that's why having open and honest dialogue and conversations about what's going on in your life, what's going on at work, at home, all these things, that changes the dynamic of how we approach our job. And as we have these conversations and get to know people, there's a mentorship side to understanding what they're going through, what they're dealing with, and we're able to have those open conversations and really help guide and steer people through, as I mentioned earlier, the forks and the potholes that are out there, the landmines that are out there for people to stumble across. And we're open books with the pros and cons of things that we've done, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations that have gone on in my life, in my wife's life, our life, and we're able to really use those experiences to help guide people and steer them in our travels, in their travels, and and we're able to kind of really navigate what's going to work best for them, and then make sure that it's implemented and put into place and it's executed properly.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, I mean, that level of customer service is so rare to get from any of these different technology platforms and things that we see that are doing trip planning. I guess on the flip side of it, it is very time intensive for you guys. So maybe help us understand, as you, let's say, scale the business, scale the number of clients that you have, how do you balance the level of white glove service that you have to provide, and also manage the volume of clients that you're potentially dealing with on a monthly or yearly basis?
Yeah, no, it's it's a great question, and really it's about investing in the company, investing in our staff, investing in training our staff, and allowing them the opportunity to service the clients properly. Where it needs to be scaled properly in the sense that X number of clients per advisor, and on and on. And the clientele that we're reaching and looking for is very boutique. As much as potential clients are vetting us, we're vetting them to make sure that their interests align with ours in the sense that they are interested in luxury travel. They are looking for the type of service that we provide. Some people are not interested in talking about themselves and talking about their lives, and that's perfectly fine. Then they're probably not the right fit for us as a client, because for us to be able to do our job, we need to be immersed in your life and understand what's going on, and you got to be willing to have that relationship and that give and take. We're certainly willing to open up and talk about ourselves and about what we've gone through in order to help clients, just as we expect them to be able to have those open conversations with us about what they're dealing with, so that we can guide and steer them in the right direction to allow them to have the experiences that they expect.
You mentioned investing in learning and staff, and we kind of joked about your LinkedIn, but also just because of how prolific it was on the athletic side. But also, you were using tools like, we booked this through Calendly. It's clear that you've picked up and gotten really proficient and efficient with different tools, which is not an easy thing when it's not like you were growing up in the corporate world. Like, we've had other guests on where we're like laughing about looking at PowerPoints and stuff like that and sifting through emails, but it's clear like you have developed that skill. What's that been like for you since your playing career, and where did that come from? Was that a self-interest or something?
Yeah, no, I think partly interest in technology and interest in how it can help. Whether it's analytics, in sports that we're seeing more and more often now, or time management. Obviously when you're playing as an athlete, everything is done for you. You're told where to go, what to do, how to do it, all the rest of that stuff. So, a lot of players and athletes struggle with, how do I get there? There's no bus. How do I do this? Nobody's told me where to go. Or you just follow the next guy in line. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll just follow this guy. So a lot of people, that's where they struggle is, because they've been playing a sport since they were 10, 12, 14, whatever it was, and they've always just had their parents drive them, somebody else drive them, on and on and on. So it's a matter of really understanding, I had 2 other jobs prior to this one where I needed to be certain places. I needed to whether it be put in reports, be accountable for my time, and understand. So it's learning. It's on-the-job training. It's learning about new technologies. It's learning about, I learned about Calendly from somebody else who wanted to book a meeting with me, and it's paying attention. I think one of the things that I've been good at as an athlete and now in business is learning from what others do and paying attention to what works and what doesn't work, and then implementing that and seeing how it works in whether it's my athletic career, my business, personal life, what have you, and seeing how it works. And some of the stuff you use and it makes sense, and some of the stuff does not make sense at all. And you're like, not a chance. But it's a matter of really paying attention and listening to what's out there, listening to people and what they're looking for.
Yeah, and speaking of being kind of nimble, clearly with COVID, when you're in a travel-focused, relationship-focused business, you're not having that face-to-face time. Travel plans are affected. I'm sure it's affected Well Inspired in many ways, but what's maybe a silver lining for you through all of this, whether it be a key learning or a new opportunity for Well Inspired that's come out of all of the past year?
Yeah, I think, learned an awful lot. Number one, about the hospitality industry and how vast it is, immersed in our economy, in our culture, our world. And secondly, I think scaling up a business in the middle of a pandemic presented a lot of opportunity, believe it or not. With other companies scaling down and laying people off, you're able to kind of interview and look at a lot of really talented people that we were able to take advantage of because we were investing in our business, investing in growing. Listening to somebody talk last night, when you find somebody that fits what you're looking to do, whether you need them or not, you hire them, and you figure it out from there because they're good people and they're invested in what you do. They've got a great attitude, great work ethic, and they're genuinely interested in the product, the value, etc. that we can provide. And we were fortunate enough to find a few people like that. And then really to be able to have conversations like this, to be able to network with people. Yeah, it might not be face-to-face, but you can still talk on Zoom, talk on the phone, and set up plans in the future to have real conversations face-to-face when things get back to somewhat normal and you're able to kind of get in and out of the various markets that are still locked down and have a lot of people in them.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about investing in the business and the ways you've been able to do that, whether it's investing in your staff or the types of trips that you're able to offer. Help us understand a little bit what the capital side of that has been like. Has this all been your own capital that you've invested? Have you gone out and seeked investors? And what has that process of capital management and capital raising been like for you?
Yeah, no, it's I think for us it's we're investing all on our own. This is our business and something that you learn from. I think having been in business since I started playing hockey professionally when I was 18, you learn what works and what doesn't work for you personally. It's similar to our business. What works for you might not work for me, might not work for Tim, what have you. And understanding and creating certain structures that how you want your business to operate, how you want the flow structure to work, etc. I think for us, I wanted to self-fund and we wanted to self-fund this business so that we could have key controls put in place and understand where everything is going, how it's all set up and working. Will somebody invest down the line? That's not why we started this business. I think for us, it's an interesting business and getting to meet people and getting to understand their stories and help them in their everyday lives. And it's a passion of ours. And I think, from giving back to different communities that we've played in to other philanthropic endeavors, yes, it's a business, but it's also a way for us to give back to people who may not have a understanding the way we do with what they're dealing with or going through, or it's an ability for us to continue to enhance and learn ourselves. We're constantly learning. I know when I was playing hockey, I knew it was time to retire when I was done learning, and I was constantly striving. I talked about it earlier, striving for excellence, striving to get better. And it's the same thing with this company and this job. It's learning about business, learning about travel, learning about our customers and clients and what's going on in their lives and how we can help them and in their everyday pursuits of great experiences and living their best life.
I think that's such an important piece and one that I would just like to highlight again, because I think, Tim and I are venture capitalists. And so we live in this world where all the companies that are coming to us are constantly seeking to raise capital. Yeah. And I like to highlight to a lot of them, hey, you don't need us, right? And if you can have a conversation with somebody and say, listen, this is a fantastic business. You've got revenue, you've got clients. you don't need to give any of it away. You can own all of it. You can control your destiny.
Yeah.
And a lot of young entrepreneurs, I think they watch Social Network and they read TechCrunch and they think that the only way to build a business is to go and get on the hamster wheel of venture capital.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important point that you mentioned, which is there's a lot of different reasons why you can build a business. Some people, they want to be the next Facebook. Great. That's awesome. And then some kinds of entrepreneurship is it's a passion project you're building as a family, and you get to serve the clients in the community that you care about, and that's fantastic. And so I just wanted to highlight that again because I think it's a great sentiment and something that our listeners should take to heart. One thing I would love to understand, you mentioned the learnings that you've had around the hospitality industry. I'm somebody who loves to travel. I've been itching to travel, and I'm sitting here looking at refreshing when different countries are going to let us in.
Yeah.
As you look at the 2021, 2022 plan, whenever we're able to, what is your outlook on the travel industry at large? Do you feel like there's going to be pent-up demand, or you feel like people are going to be maybe a little wary of getting out there?
Yeah, no, we're sensing pent-up demand. I think the second half of 2021 will be very good. And 2022 is going to be in the when I'm speaking of the luxury sector that we're in. We're bullish. We're bullish on a rebound, a spike, if you will, and a lot of clients we've talked to, potential clients, there's, as they like to say, there's pent-up demand for revenge travel. So we're bullish on the hospitality industry, the luxury hospitality industry, and where that's going to bounce back to.
One thing I just thought of, and it's a little bit out there, so I could be way off base, but given your clientele, I imagine many of them have second homes. Have you thought at all about the potential in terms of helping them like rent those out, for example, or is a little bit different, but have extended stays been part of a demand for this year given COVID? Obviously, NHL players aren't working remote, right?
Yeah.
That's different,
Yeah.
but perhaps there's other clients where either one of those things could make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think on the first point, the second home thing, most people, if they own a second home, they don't necessarily want to have other people in it that they don't know that they, on a week by week or bi-weekly basis. But some do, and some do that. But I think to your second point, there were a lot of people that work remotely and decided, you know what, I'm in New York, I'm in LA, I'm in Chicago, I'm going to go to Florida, I'm going to go to the Caribbean, my kids are going to remote school anyways, and I'm going to go live in a villa in Grand Cayman, Grenada, Bahamas, whatever, and I'm going to work out of that office. I got to work remote anyways, and I'm going to take Zoom calls and all the rest of that. There's Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere now, so you can work from pretty much anywhere. So, you get the fake backgrounds, the backdrops. You can act like you're on the beach when you're on the beach.
Yeah, Jay's in the Empire State Building, I think, right now. Or maybe that's what's behind him. He's at Rock Center, I think.
Yeah. So, there's that was, I think a silver lining for a lot of people. And I know a lot of people are moving because of how much they enjoyed it, how much they've liked the family time, the lower stress environment of waking up and seeing the water, or waking up and seeing the mountains wherever they decide to move to or stay. And I think that's given a lot of people peace of mind that they can actually do it because they've been forced to do it, and now they're going to take that leap of faith and do it.
Well, to Jay's point about our pent-up demand, I also love to travel. I guess Jay and I will both probably need a few successful company exits though before we start engaging you, given like the sounds and the likes of some of the trips you're setting up.
Hey, we're always prospecting, guys. You never know.
Yeah, there you go.
And on that note, Chris, what does client development look like for you? Is it a lot of word of mouth, or is it your personal relationships, and how do you expand that?
Yeah, some of it's personal relationships. It's LinkedIn. It's referrals. I think for this past year, let's say, give or take a month or two, a lot of it based on the mindset of the traveler, the mindset of the pandemic. It was, we're very interested. We really like what you're doing. We're very interested. We're just not traveling right now, or we're not doing this. We're not, whether they're immune compromised or they're in the athletic world and they're on hiatus, but they're not playing. They're on this holding pattern. So a lot of that stuff has transpired, and I think really it's about now as things loosen up and we have more and more clients traveling and understanding how we work, what we do, we're going to see more referrals and more people that want this type of interaction, that want to be able to call somebody and know who it is, know that they understand what's going on in their life, and be able to, hey, this is what we've got set aside that we've talked about before. Hey, this is a great idea. Not right for now. You've got this coming up. You've got this going on. Your spouse is dealing with this. Your kids are doing this. Maybe there's a stressor in the marriage, and you need to get away with your spouse. This would be a great spot. You can drive there. What have you. All those things, I think, as we continue to go, are going to be a big part of what we're doing.
Well, Chris, you've been so gracious with your time and your stories. I would love to close where we like to close with a lot of our guests. You started talking about advice that you got from a 36-year-old teammate to your 18-year-old self. So maybe we'll go ahead and wrap on, now knowing the things that you've learned as a player, now having been in business for all these years, the things that you learned. What is some advice that you would give your younger self?
I was fortunate enough. I think we always look back on our careers and, what if I did this? Or what if I didn't do that? And blah, blah, blah. I mean, at the end of the day, I look back and I go, yeah, are there things that I would change? Probably, but would my life and my career have turned out the same? I don't know. I made a lot of mistakes in my younger years and those are well documented. But had I not gone through those trials and tribulations and those questionable moments, would I have been as diligent and dedicated, later on in my career? I don't know. Was it a mindset that just needed time to take hold? I don't know. I think, that's something that it's hard to look back and say, oh, I would change this, that, or the other thing. I think one thing that I was going to say, I was fortunate enough to have great mentors, not only in athletics, but also outside of the game and in business and personally, and a couple of great mentors for me. And when I got hurt in Philly, the first 2 phone calls I made were to them, and it speaks to their friendship and our relationship. They were on a flight the next day, coming to meet with me and talk to me, and I got great advice from both of them. And one was, don't rush into anything. Take a full year off when you're done playing, done with that first job that you've been maniacal about your whole life. Take a full year off. Don't commit to doing anything. Don't rush into anything. You're going to feel bored at times. You're going to feel without a purpose. Work on yourself. Work on your health. Work on getting better. And then come back into the fold and do what you're passionate about. Passion is going to drive everything. That's why you played athletics. That's why you guys do what you do. Whatever you're passionate about, that's your navigator. That's what's going to steer you and guide you to the next great option. I was going to say best, but it's going to be great because you're passionate about it. And if you're passionate about something and you love what you do, there is no such thing as failure because you're doing what you love. And is it going to be, as you said, a Facebook or something like that? It might not be, but it doesn't have to be. If you're passionate about it and you love what you do and you're enjoying what you're doing, then that's all we can ask. And when I got those, life lessons and little tidbits from them because they were both retired, I was like, I took it to heart and I implemented those into how I interacted and did things that first year. And they served me well because I was presented with a number of board opportunities and things like that as I look back on, they would have been a huge mistake.
I love that. Chris Pronger, thank you so much for joining us on The Game Plan. We appreciate your willingness to share and your time today.